Hi.
Hey, there we go. We are not starting the show just yet, but if you would, let us know how the audio levels are. This is me, of course. Duncan, how about you say some things?
I'm saying stuff, and Bo, I can tell you right now, I have just checked the video and you're coming through fine.
All right. And you seem to be coming through fine as well. Derek, the real boy, with us in the chat already. So here we go, man. We are going to transition out of this, and then we'll be back to start the show. So everybody hang tight. Everybody be cool.
And Ripley can never pay off.
Right. They
So
can
much so
bill
that she
me. Yeah.
she fakes her death in the third movie to try and get out of paying that loan back.
Do you think that was that basically Alien 3 is just an insurance scam?
It's
So
the long con. That's what they should have called it, Alien 3, the long con.
the, the Fincher cut was just her like, "Hey, look, when the company shows up, when Wayland Yutani gets here, you
Yep.
just tell them that I was never here."
Yeah. This like step one, shave your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Step
Well,
two,
cuz
getting impregnated by a xenomorph.
I
Step
hadn't
three, jump into flames. I mean, that's how you do it, Bo.
I hadn't considered this, but like Ripley is on the hook for the Nostromo, which she
Yeah.
she blew up. Also, the entirety of LV-426 in that installation.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that approaches a level of debt where you just couldn't possibly care. Like you owe so much money that it's like, oh well, me and my future generations will never be able to pay this off. So
Yeah.
what's
Might
the
as well have
point?
fun with it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Let's have some fun with it.
Yeah. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen to me through this long con is that I become an alien hybrid, but that'll never happen.
Right? How? What is Winona Ryder going to show up out of nowhere? No, of course not.
She's not going to be a droid.
No. Um, I've forgotten that she was an android. Hey, welcome everybody to
Yep.
Duncan and Bo Come Correct, aka Duncan and Bo Slash Fiction, this season, as well as last season, as well as the season after this one.
Every
Um,
season from now on to the end of time.
all right. So we're if you've been listening and or watching the show, first of all, thank you for doing so. Second of all, happy 4th of July to those watching live. It is the 4th of July here in the States.
Yeah,
Um,
happy. How dare you bite and strike back the hand that feeds? You fucking absolute heathens. We gave you everything. Look how you treat us.
so the Duncan's royalist tendencies coming out once more.
Couldn't be any less of a royalist if
Yes.
I tried. I tried to play the part there, and then I realised that I have no horse in this game at all.
Duncan
So,
loves the monarchy is the new show we'll be doing.
yeah, which which I mean holds about as much water as Wren is a real boy. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when you kind of look at it just even a little bit, totally not real.
I look, first of all, I appreciate the fact that this show has just dedicated
I have
itself
no horse.
that we are 100% into Wren, you know. Um
Yep, yep.
Derek telling you welcome to the tea party, Duncan.
I mean, yeah. I mean, without being a royalist, I will say the biggest crime you could do to these here, United Kingdoms is like cast tea and ruin it in the bay. That's not cool.
I
The
kind of
least
have
we can
the
do.
that Ted Lasso approach to tea, which is boy, this is just garbage water, isn't it? This is just
That's because you guys drink horrible tea. Um, Having
uh
been to America a couple of times, I've yet to find a good cup of tea. This is why I like British people. Like, no joke, legit, no joke. British people will pack tea bags with them on holiday when they go abroad because tea everywhere else in the world is fucking garbage. So
I
that's
think it's
that's true. That's 100% true. They
I,
will
I
pack.
I think it's just that you guys have gotten used to it. Like the rest of the world was like, well, this tastes like crap, but what about coffee? And that seemed to be good.
Oh, we love coffee as well. I drink more coffee than I do tea, but every now and again, a nice cup of tea, not the whatever it is. Like, you've just got a great way. Even your coffee. American coffee is not great coffee.
You bite your tongue. Like, it depends on where you're getting it. Like, I buy and grind my own beans, and my coffee is
in the
amazing.
same boat. Yeah, I know. I can, like, the beans that I buy come with like a backstory. Like, I can trace them to the forest they were picked. You know what I mean? Like, that's the good shit. But see if it's just like, I tell you what soured me of it was like when you're in New York City and you go to like I drink a lot of coffee. I'm like coffee fiend. So if you go on holiday with me, or vacation as you guys call it, if we're walking around, because I like doing city breaks, I like going and like investigating cities and stuff. If we do that, there's lots of stops for coffee. And yeah, like I'm a sucker for, I see that sign that says, you know, city's best cup of coffee. I'm like, I'm going to try that city's best cup of coffee. Turns out, a lot of liars. Fucking a lot of liars in New York City. There's a whole lot of shit and like, let me refill that cup. How about no? It's free. I'll tell you what, I will pay you not to bring me another cup. So yeah, there we go. Shots fired. Happy Independence Day, though. Yay!
Yeah. I think most people celebrated last night, although I am sure over the next week or so you will continue to hear fireworks going off here and there, here in the States.
We get the same on November the 5th. So November the 5th over here is Guy Fawkes night.
Yeah.
And we have like fireworks for days afterwards. Ugh.
Yeah. Scare all the pets.
The dogs hate it. The dogs absolutely hate it. So
oddly enough, my cat's setting some off on their own. Really disturbing my sleep more than theirs. Daddy, morning. Welcome to Duncan and Bo / fiction. Here
Hi,
we
Daddy.
go. Let's enough foofara, enough grandstanding, enough higgledy-pigglediness.
Oh dear. Poppycock.
Enough poppycock. Let's get to what we've been watching, good and bad, which is how we begin these programs. Duncan,
yes.
What have you been watching? Well, give me a good or bad first. I don't care which.
So I've not seen anything exceptional, but I will give you something that was okay.
Okay.
I liked it. You spoke about it briefly on the previous episode. I went out and checked that Quiet Place 2.
Yeah, totally fine popcorn horror movie.
100%. I mean, they did exactly. I'll tell you what that movie has got in its favor for me for a long time. Runtime. That is a movie that is in and out in an hour and a half.
Yep.
That's how you do a sequel, ladies and gents. Let's not fuck around. Let's get in. Let's get out. I enjoyed it for what it was. I probably enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the first one, if I'm honest. No more than that, but then I wasn't the biggest. Like all my issues from the first movie are still there, like 100% still there. You know what I mean? Like if you think about it for any more than half a minute, it's like, yeah, none of this makes any sense in what you're doing. There are so many other ways to survive with ease. So that was the good, but I mean, it's bolstered by good performances. Emily Blunt's great. I do love the Cillian Murphy. I think he's a great actor. So I thought he was a good kind of John Krasinski kind of replacement. Thought that worked well for it. And like I say, it can be a fairly vicious movie when it wants to be, and its runtime helps it. So there we go.
Yeah, I agree with all those things. I probably like Quiet Place 2 a little more than Quiet Place 1, just because that waterfall scene is so blatantly like, why are you not living near the waterfall?
Yeah, live anywhere that there's like background noise constant. like, what the fuck are we doing here? I don't like the new conceit is now that we know that they can't swim. Like, if movie number 3 doesn't start with them heading off to an island, fuck this franchise.
Yeah, they need to live on an oil platform and just deal with things there.
Oh, Derek, I love you right now.
Just
bringing some TLC.
Don't encourage this.
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Stick to the aliens and the monsters you're used to.
God bless your heart, Bo Ransdell.
You're very welcome. Alicia, also welcome. Also pointing out, I haven't seen this yet. She said she watched Fear Street 94 on Netflix, which I haven't
Yep.
sat down and watched yet. Here's the thing I heard about it that has really put me off of that movie, and a sight unseen. But if you want to really make me not want to watch your film,
Mm-hmm.
brag about the number of needle drops and nostalgic references in it. And I heard that and I was like, ugh, okay, I'll see it at some point.
I'll check it. I'm hopefully going to be watching it with the wife tonight. I love the concept, and I know that ultimately where I want to, of those three movies, the one I want to see is the one that's set in the 1600s or whatever it is. That's the one I want to get to, right?
Yeah.
So I need to get through this one, and this one is going to be the one because the first one is like the out and out slasher movie. Which we've said before, neither one of us are huge slasher guys. We need to get through this one. But the next one is in the 70s, which is going to be like an homage to a lot of kind of 70s horror stuff. And then when we get the old 1600s one, it's all about witches. So, I mean, like I am down to clown if each three movies are kind of time capsules or nostalgia bubbles to each of those things, because the other two I'm a lot more interested in.
Yeah.
So
you know what they say, Duncan, witches get stitches. All right. All right, so I'll hit my good for the week, which is going to be Censor.
Yes, I am. You can't give me too much information on it because I'm recording next weekend an episode on it, so I'll be watching it in the interim.
Okay, good. Well, let me just walk you through the movie beat by beat then. So what happens is, here's what I like a lot about Censor. It is, you're gonna love this movie so much, Duncan.
Oh, I know I am. It's like I know what the premise is for the movie. And as soon as the premise was explained to me, I was like, this is a Duncan movie. So
100% the lighting of that movie and just the general like pace and tone of it. As I was watching it, I was like, oh my God, Duncan's gonna, you're gonna need a change of pants.
Yeah.
So so the movie deals with a British censor in the age of the video nasty. She's one of a number of people just kind of charged with watching all these, kind of gruesome films going through and either recommending an outright ban or recommending the cuts in the movie that will make it not a video nasty. And that was really interesting because it's an era in terms of just kind of British censorship that I'm interested in.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't sit with that for the entire film, but it's kind of an interesting little jumping off point. And then it's very much one of those like, well, is this really happening or is she going crazy kind of movies where the broad stroke is she sees a film that reminds her of an event from her past where her sister went missing and is now kind of presumed dead, but we don't really know if her sister is dead or not. And when she sees this film and sees this actress that she thinks looks a lot like her sister, it sort of puts her on the path to discovering, is this person really my sister? I've got to go track down this kind of auteur director that makes nothing but these kind of gruesome slasher movies and stuff like that. It's super interesting. The end of it gets a little on the nose for me. Like, it doesn't really hide what's happening towards the end of the film, except in the last few shots, which are wonderful and remind me a whole lot of Saint Maud.
Nice.
So if you if you enjoyed the happy feel good times that you had with Saint Maud, let me recommend Censor, which is equally feel good. But they make a nice, like, that would be a nice double feature as far as like, these are two movies about just the degradation of somebody's psychology. And anyway, really interesting, really good, really beautiful at times, really well shot. And again, a nice like hour 30, hour 40 runtime. It's not screwing around. So yeah,
Memory
it's
serves as well. It's a debut feature by a female director as well.
yeah, she had done a short film, is my understanding, that's very similar to Censor in
Hmm.
terms of being set at that time and sort of having to do with the video nasties and that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, it's I won't get into it, but there is a there's a thing that happens visually within the movie in the last act that I really dug, where it just the kind of the way that the movie appears changes, and I really
All
liked
right.
it. But yeah, so I won't say more than that, other than to say Censor is available on streaming platforms, and if you want to see. If you are in the mood for something that's a little bit unusual, it's certainly an art house kind of horror film, not for everybody. If you thought Quiet Place 2 was the best horror movie you saw this year, maybe Censor ain't your guy. But yeah, it's quite good. And Derek pointing out in the chat that the main actress from Censor is in Wrath of Man, that Jason Statham film,
Oh yeah.
and she's very good in Censor. She's it is an all around impressive kind of movie, and I want to go back and watch it, because if I had any complaints with it, it's that sometimes I think the pacing can get in the way, because it is a
Hmm.
very kind of slow, deliberate film. But then the more I look back on it, the more I'm like, well, I don't know what I would have changed about that either, because it kind of
Yeah.
all leads to sort of the maniacal nature of the last part of the movie. So give me something stinky.
Well, I was going to say the other thing about talking about like female directors coming off a debut. Fear Street, the trilogy, is being directed by. This is basically the first movie from the director that did that movie Honeymoon from
Oh,
2014.
sure, yeah, the one with Rose Leslie.
Yeah,
Okay.
from Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
this is her coming back to do something, and she landed all three of those. So I know I was on the minority on that, but I was really high on Honeymoon. I thought it was a great movie. So it's great seeing her land something that will get her a ton of exposure. Like regardless if it's seen as being a success, I think it probably will be just on the platform it's in. She's going to get whatever she wants financed next, which once again I think is important, because I think we need voices from different genders, different backgrounds, races, etc. All of that in our horror industry, because all it does is makes it better. So,
Totally agree. Well, not
yep.
necessarily about Honeymoon. I thought Honeymoon was dreadfully predictable and ultimately dull. But
I've heard the same about your sex life, so there we go.
oh, Duncan, how
Uh,
hurtful.
I apologize. That was made up. That's not what I've heard at all. It's only been 5-star Yelp reviews.
Right.
So
I mean, have you seen what's going on TripAdvisor these days? Take a trip to Bo's penis.
yeah.
Don't careful with the curve, they say.
Right, in terms of the bad movie,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I'm talking out a turn on this one. This is a summer series movie. So I've recorded 20, what was last night? 2013 was last night. And a little movie called Hatchet 3
Oof.
was
Oof.
in there.
I watched
And
all those Hatchet movies recently, so I'm kind of all right. I'm ready for this. Let's do it.
well, I've never seen the last one,
Oh,
so
I haven't
I've
seen the
seen.
Victor Crowley one either. I stopped at
So I've
3.
seen that. I've watched the three
Yeah.
movies, and that third movie is just soulless. Like, as a absolutely soulless outing. Which, I mean, there are bits I can appreciate the practical gore, and that's about as far as I go. I don't mind Victor Crowley as a character; I quite like him, but everything else about it is devoid of any real passion in the project at all. You know what I mean? The script is very lazy, like incredibly lazy. It is full of kind of soulless cameos where people just show up because they're friends of Adam Green.
Yeah.
And like,
But
hey,
I
I'm in
think the
this
first
movie.
two are like that too. I don't think that Hatchet 3.
See, I like Hatchet. I don't love Hatchet. I have a bit more time for Hatchet 2, because Hatchet 2 to me has a bit of humor about it and kind of feels like a schlocky sequel, whereas Hatchet 3 just feels like the phone-in entry, that every franchise has, where we're like, well, why are we do like why are we doing this? Like, you get that point where you're like, is this a money laundering scam? Because that's the only way I could justify everyone being back on set to make this movie. It doesn't necessarily. I think that my biggest issue with it is there's a franchise that completely ends up in a position that, it's trying to ebb and copy in a lot of respects 80s franchises, which usually are in about the fifth entry or sixth entry where they're this cynical, and this one got to it in 3.
Well, but yeah, if you're making a copy of another thing, and that's kind of what Hatchet was doing.
Yes.
Then by the time you get to the third one, like, I don't know that Victor Crowley is set in space, but it ought to be.
Well, this is that was always the thing that kind of got me about the marketing of the franchise in general. Because if you remember when Hatchet came out, this is the next big great American
old
slasher.
School American horror is what they called it. Yeah,
literally over all the posters, every soundbite, and I watched it, and it felt like a really watered down Friday the 13th. Like, he really, really watered down one, and then subsequently the sequels. And the franchise are like, they don't even do what Friday the 13th sequels do, which you have a formula, stick to that formula, right? You've got new people in there, but you stick to the formula. And this one, it just is, it's a hot mess of a movie. Like I said, it's just devoid of any passion. Like, no one, like, even when I watch something like Jason Takes Manhattan, which is not a good movie, I can tell people are having fun making that movie. I watch Hatchet 3 and everyone looks miserable, which is never a great sign. So yeah, it's my bad.
All right, well, I'm gonna I'll give you mine, and this is something that Alicia mentioned in the chat as well. She said that she saw both the Fear Street 94 and the Tomorrow War. By process,
I don't know what the Tomorrow War is.
Okay, so because this is my bad. The Tomorrow War is an Amazon original film, but it's super big budget. It is Chris Pratt. You know, Betty Gilpin from The Hunt plays his wife. So roughly the premise of it is, which is kind of intriguing, that in the year of our Lord 2021, in the middle of a soccer or football match, a bunch of
on your Independence Day, no less,
I know,
you did that.
a bunch of soldiers appear out of nowhere in this like blue light, and they come out and they're like, "Hey, 30 years from now, these creatures show up, these aliens show up, and they kill everybody. And we've been fighting them, and we're about to lose. So we have come back in time to enlist your help in saving the world."
Is this like Space Jam or something where they have to play them in a soccer match?
Kinda, yeah. So but the idea, and here's kind of what I like about it, is they start drafting ordinary civilians from all over the world to go fight in this war, and you do 7-day tours where you get zapped into the future for 7 days, and then you come back. Only about 30% of the people come back, though, and the ones that do are like completely PTSD'd out, just are fucked up.
But doesn't that fuck with the timeline, though?
Well, so that's what this is kind of what I like, is that to be conscripted into service, you have to be dead in that timeline. So you have to have died in that 30-year interval.
Right.
And the people that they send back can't have been born yet, so that you don't fuck up, like you don't create a paradox. Which I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of a clever idea. But then they don't ever do anything with that. It's just that's sort of the setup. And and then it lapses very quickly into a traditional big budget kind of Hollywood movie where there's a bunch of shit blowing up, and there's a core like emotional story between Chris Pratt and his now adult daughter, who is fighting this war and is kind of leading the resistance and so forth. And it's just the most routine by the numbers bullshit you ever saw. And some of the effects work is pretty good, but as I have often said on this program, you don't leave the theater whistling the special effects.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand what Amazon is going for. And that it's trying to be, it's kind of my problem with most big budget movies these days, is they're just trying to be everything to everyone, instead of
Yeah.
just like, let's make a really cool sci-fi action movie that isn't necessarily the broadest appeal of a movie. But it's kind of what Netflix does, I think, where Netflix makes a little bit smaller films as a rule. I guess they make some big ones, but they seem to be a little smaller in scale and just aimed at a particular audience. And I think that's way
Yeah.
smarter than trying to make these giant movies that everybody's going to like. And as a result, it just ends up being a movie that everybody can kind of tolerate, and it doesn't really do anything flashy or unusual or unpredictable or controversial. It's just it's a movie that happens to you for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and then you're done. And like I said, I haven't finished it. I reached a point where I had about half an hour left, and I was just very tired because I had been at the zoo all day, and which was frankly way more entertaining than the Tomorrow War, mostly because I saw a Sumatran tiger. But yeah, like by that point, I was like, you know what, this movie just ain't good enough for me to stay up another half hour to finish this up. And I'll probably finish it at some point when I've got 20-30 minutes that I need to kill, waiting to leave for an appointment or something. But it's just the most generic thing you ever saw. And
Yeah.
Chris Pratt is Chris Pratting it up. He's not super jokey in it, but has those kind of Chris Pratt moments as well. And yeah, it feels like a movie that, to your point about the Victor Crowley films, it feels a little cynical, of like, it's
Yeah.
got a premise, but then everything around the execution of that premise is completely 100% by the book. It is the most predictable movie. Like, I was always 2 steps ahead of it, where they introduced this female character, and I'm like, oh, I bet that's his daughter. And then 2 scenes later, it's like, are you my daughter? And it's like, all right, oh, well, yeah, you can call this from the cheap seats. If you've seen 10 movies over the course of your life, you are going to know everything about this movie. And that's why I haven't finished it, because I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know what the ending of this movie is, but I at some point I'll just, confirmation bias will lead me to finish it. But
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult genre to do as well, though, kind of alien war thing. I think the last one that I think genuinely delivered in a smart way, with a great story and great performances, is at the end of tomorrow, Edge of Tomorrow.
yeah, that's a great sci-fi action movie. Yeah, for
And that
sure.
might be the last one I think I
Yeah.
saw. I can't think of anything. I cannot think of anything out with that where I was kind of like, yeah, and like, this kind of feels like humans actually facing off against aliens in a way that feels like the stakes are real. I think that's always the issue for me, is the stakes never really feel real. And the conceit of that movie is the stakes in a lot of respects aren't real, and that when you die you just reset. So
Yeah. But that's kind of what made it interesting too. And
mhm.
speaking of stakes in this movie, again, it's the end of the world is the stake. So of course, there are some, but that's never it never I don't know. When every movie is the apocalypse, it's hard to feel, you're caught up in the action. Um and there are some moments that I wish that they had pursued. Like, one of the things, one of the beats of the movie, and this is a slight spoiler for a movie that I would tell people not to watch, but there's a moment in the movie where the time machine thing that allows you to go back and forth goes offline. And so the assumption is that, hey, in the future these aliens have just won, and so there's no more humanity and that kind of thing. And so the rest of the world is just like, well, then fuck it. What's the point of doing any of this if in 30 years we're all going to be dead? And that part of it's kind of interesting. And I wish that it had pursued more of that sociological kind of stuff. The way that, like, in Soderbergh's not Outbreak, what was the pandemic movie that Soderbergh did?
A Contagion?
Yeah. Something like that, where you get to see really the society around a pandemic kind of breaking down and so forth. And I wish there had been some more of that stuff. I just wish I cared about anything that happened to these characters at any point in the movie, and I'll kind of shut up there. But I just to catch up with chat, because there's some interesting points here. First of all, I am not doing Larry the Cable Guy cosplay. I am wearing a hat because I grow increasingly bald. And, I'm wearing a hat, so fuck off. Derek saying, all movies can't be Arrival. Very true. Arrival is probably the best science fiction movie since Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not a full-on science fiction war movie, though.
Right. It is. Yeah, it's not an action movie.
It's like, as sci-fi movies go, is one of the best in the last decade.
Yeah. Derek saying Interstellar is Saving Private Ryan in space. Only Interstellar also ends with that stupid forget about all the science stuff in the front end of this movie. The real power in the universe is love. And I got no time for that in a sci-fi movie.
That's the power of love.
Yeah. Don't take rockets.
Don't need no space.
Don't need no shuttlecraft to ride this train. Anyway, yeah. And then Andrew, welcome, also saying that he saw the Sparks Brothers on Friday. And Sparks Brothers are what a great documentary. Everybody should see Sparks Brothers.
I will check. It's on the list. It's on my list of things to check out.
It's quite good. Okay, so if any of you kind folks in chat have a question, by all means,
you have a couple of minutes to drop them in before we start doing slasher chat. So
yeah, and I've got to find. There was a question left for us by the Ram Man.
Oh.
That I've got to look up it, and somebody else brought it up, and I didn't do the copy paste that I should have been doing. But essentially, I don't know. Fill some time.
Yeah, time filler.
It's not what I'm looking for, Duncan.
We have all the time in the world.
Danny pointing out, though, Starman is a sci-fi movie where love is the answer. Totally fine with that, though.
Yeah.
Because
Starman's also John Carpenter, though. So
yeah, Starman,
which is not the ending you expect from a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah. Yeah, but what
and it's why he's never done it since, because it was a failure.
While I'm looking this up, though, Duncan, you may want to weigh in on the fact that we have confirmation we are not getting. Okay, I found the question I was looking for. We are not getting a Lovecraft Country season 2.
Which, I mean, surprised me, but didn't surprise me.
Yeah.
After a certain point, if you don't hear anything, that's usually a good indicator that nothing's happening. And I think we said, even like after the first 3-4 months, kind of post that show wrapping up, there was still like, well, they're talking about things and all the rest. All the big players in that essentially have gigs now doing other things, which is usually a good indicator that nothing's going to happen there. It's one of the reasons. I know a lot of people, myself included, are pining for that Hannibal season 4, but on paper, everyone involved with that project is doing 100 other things at the moment. Maybe not Hugh Dancy. I think he's in between gigs at the moment, but you've got Mads Mikkelsen is doing absolutely everything. Brad Fuller has got, I can't remember what his new thing is that got mentioned recently, but it sounded super interesting. Like at a certain point, to bring things in, to get everyone back around the table and do something becomes quite difficult. And I think from what HBO were saying is that to them it's not a risk per se, but because that first series is so linked to the first book and there is no second book, it would require them really to go off and do their own thing. And I think there's not necessarily a bit of risk, but there's a lot of work that has to go into that.
Misha Green.
HBO.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say HBO have been stung with this before. This is True Detective syndrome, where that first season was based on something well established. Like it took a long time to get to that project. Season 2 rushed into development really quickly. Script and story written really quickly. Didn't land the way they expected it to. And I suppose I would much rather they were cautious about it. And as and when something organically comes along that could be a season 2, they maybe revisit it then, rather than rushing into a second season and giving us something. Like that first season set such a high bar that I would not accept anything except something on that level or above. That's difficult. Me and Bo, I think I can speak for you here. We're both gutted about it, but at the same time, that first season finishes at a nice point.
Yeah,
and it's still an incredible TV show.
It was definitely, it definitely ended in a place of like, I would love to see where this goes next, but also if this is it, what a stand-up and cheer moment that we're going out on, and it was entirely satisfying. Misha Green did release a little bit of information from the series Bible for a potential season 2, which showed there was a map of the United States that had been fractured into different camps, essentially. Like there's, the African-American magic using camp and, that kind of thing. It seemed really interesting, but also I'm totally fine with that just being a thing. It feels very like British TV to me, of like, hey, we're going to do this limited run thing.
You want it done, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Everybody's going to love it, and then we're done with it. And
not everything needs to be a sprawling,
right?
4 or 5 season epic. I think sometimes when you capture lightning in a bottle, and that show is lightning, that show should not have been as good or worked as well as it did.
Yeah,
on paper, and they did it. They fucking did it. There's almost a bit of not humility, but there's a bit of kind of confidence, if anything, in saying, you know what, we're just going to leave it as is, and people will find it. The beauty of that show wasn't hugely viewed, but I have a feeling that people are going to be stumbling into it for years to come, and walking away with it. Like our very good friend Jamie J. Salmons only watched it recently, and she was raving about it while watching it, and I was like, that where were you when me and Bo were banging the drum for this months ago? Yeah. We've been hiring for that, but that to me shows that it's going to take its time to filter its way through, and it's only going to get more people interested in it, and then maybe something happens down the road. But
maybe they make a one-off movie or something, whatever it happens to be. But yeah, I recommended it to somebody on like Friday night. I was out to dinner with some folks and let them know, like, we were talking about great TV, and I was like, hey, if you've got HBO and you want to see something that'll knock your fucking socks off, Lovecraft Country is your guy.
100%.
So all right, before we get to the question, let me just address the bald elephant in the room. Robert saying, stay strong. I was thinning in my 20s and frequently wore a hat before I just started shaving it completely bald. It's hardly to accept. I've got it fairly shaved. Don't get me wrong. The thing is, I also, I go out and about, and in the sun, my sensitive scalp burns. So I got my Camp Crystal Lake cap, and that's how I'm living now. So also I've got a giant pumpkin head, and hats are difficult for me. So this one seems to be okay, and when you find an okay hat, then you fucking wrap your arms around it and run with it.
You keep it.
Yeah. It like I've got this, and I've got my yard hat that looks like the hat that Weezer wore in Steel Magnolias. That that's the hat where I'm like, look, it's me and the neighbors the neighbors and Jesus. That's who sees me in this hat, and none of them are complaining. So let's get to our question though. So the Ram Man asks us, who would win in a battle? The kid from Brightburn, okay, or Psycho Gorman? Two towering forces of evil, intergalactic villains.
Yep.
Going mono E Gorman.
I mean, see, here's the problem with this scenario.
Yeah.
The problem with this scenario is that Psycho Gorman can only do what the holder of the crystal commands to do, whereas the Brightburn kid doesn't have that conceit. So you're relying on, it's like playing chess against a shite chess player. If that person doesn't position you and get you to do the things that you need to do, then there's issues. Unless he's free. Unless we're freeing him like he is at the end.
Yeah, I presume movie. You're talking about a free Psycho Gorman versus the Brightburn.
Yeah, I'm. Well, the thing about the Brightburn villain is we don't know much about him.
I'm assuming that he's essentially got the powers of a Superman.
Yeah,
and that you're talking evil Superman versus Psycho Gorman.
I mean, I want Psycho Gorman to win, but I think evil Superman is likely to win.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am with it. I think it's the Brightburn kid because, he's invincible. And, maybe you get Psycho Gorman to turn him into a brain person or something. But that's the only out, if otherwise, this Brightburn kid's going to fuck shit up.
Yep.
As he did in the movie, which... I still wish that had been a little bit better.
It's fine for what it is. Like I remember seeing people literally lose their shit over it, and I kind of felt like,
I was.
I say the smartest thing they didn't do was make a sequel, because there was talk about that for a while, and I was like, that's a bad idea.
I mean, I wish that it had just been a little bit. I know that I'm repeating myself after talking about the Tomorrow War. I wish that movie had been a little bit more surprising, as opposed to just like, oh, he's an evil Superman, and the end of the movie being he's an evil Superman.
Yeah,
and I was into it for the Elizabeth Banks. I'm a big fan of hers. The fact that she's making that Cocaine Bear movie does nothing but make me happy.
Yeah, that movie that has the potential to be all sorts of awesome, by the way.
Yes. If they strike the right tone with that, of let it be a little over the top and ridiculous with this Cocaine Bear, then that's going to be one of the greatest movies ever made.
It could be a future DBCC commentary. I'm just saying.
Oof, boy, yeah, you're not wrong about that. Okay, so let's get to our filthy business, everybody, which is, of course, to discuss episode 5 of season 2 of Slasher. This one is called Out of the Frying Pan. Guys, ladies and gentlemen in chat, listeners at home, this may be the single dumbest episode of Slasher we have yet encountered.
This might be one of the most single dumbest episodes of television I've ever watched.
It's in the running.
Glorious, though.
So, all right,
kind of glorious.
Let's dive right in. So we opened the show on
which is kind of like, let's dive right in. Is kind of what Glenn did at the end of the last episode.
Yes. Keep in mind, everybody, the last episode ends with prison rape in a bus.
Yep.
As not Glenn. What's his name? Benny Ironsides?
Benny Ironside, which is the coolest name ever. It makes him sound like a 1950s PI.
Ironsides, Benny Ironsides. This dame strolled into the office and she had legs that went all the way up. So Benny Ironsides has just prison raped Noah in this bus. And so we open on Noah, only it's 5 years earlier at camp, where Noah gets totally Tom Sawyered.
Yeah, this one time, summer camp.
Yeah, where Talvinder are now dead.
Romulan spy.
Right, a character that we know is manipulative, but here it really is.
Oh, dude, let me just say right now, we're going to get to the scene coming up. I don't know what they're doing with this TV show, because what they've done is they make her maybe one of the most despicable people I've ever met on TV.
Yeah.
Like, where I'm like that, am I supposed to be like sorry that they murdered her now? Like, because at this point, I might have been along for the ride.
Yeah, Duncan, I'm not pro-murder, but I'm definitely anti-Talvinder. And I don't know where that Venn diagram overlaps, but I'm not. Like, if she had just fallen down a hole and died. This reminds me, I think I may have told this story on the show before. I had a geometry teacher in middle school or high school. I think high school. And he was just one of the meanest teachers I ever had. And a couple of years after I graduated, he ended up getting a very aggressive form of cancer and died very quickly. And I remember even at the time thinking, I don't want anyone to die of cancer, but I don't feel any worse that it was him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel about Talvinder. And yes, you're right. In answer to Danny said, is this show good or bad? I can't tell from the discussion. It's terrible, but it's also like
it's entertaining. So. It's entertaining at how bad it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the fact that there are 4 seasons of this thing is
it's fucking mind blowing. It's proof that Satan exists.
You
know what I mean? And someone has signed one of those contracts, you know, that allows them 30 years of creativity before the devil comes and takes them away.
Right. I think it might be the Canadian devil in this case.
So he shows up and says he's sorry before he takes your soul.
Oh, gee, sorry, but yeah, we're gonna keep this slasher show going. I know it's really terrible, but you know, Canadian devil. Ha ha ha.
It's like Slasher is the TV show we deserve, not the one we wanted.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, 5 years before, Noah's carrying some wood, to I presumably start a fire or something.
He's building birdhouses.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And Talvinder, the girl what has been murdered at the camp and is the cause of all this, is trying to put up tents
badly.
Right, and she's really flopping here in NBA terms, where she's like, "Oh, I just don't know where any of these poles go."
Yeah.
Wink, wink. And and Noah kind of pauses. He's like, "Oh, do you need a hand with anything?" And she's like, "I just don't know how to make these tents. Can you help me, Noah?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess I have a minute." And so they start putting the tent together very briefly, and then Talvinder checks her watch and is like, "Oh my God, I've got to give a nature walk in 10 minutes. Can you?"
Oh, yikes!
Yeah,
no.
So, oh my God, can you like put all these tents together for me? And then I'm gonna go do this nature walk, and then later I'll make it up to you. By which I mean an HJ or maybe a BJ, but
that is almost 100%. Explicit that's what she means when she says she's making it up to him. Which, once again, is all the more reason that I despise this fucking character.
So,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so once Noah's like, okay, pretty lady, I'll put up your tents. Talvinder just takes off to go find her lady pals and is like,
get a drink on.
Yeah, give me a beer, bitches. I've got the day off. And while Noah is putting together these tents, he sees her go into the woods with her friends with a cooler of beer.
Yeah.
And then Peter comes along.
And the words that don't come out his mouth that should is the words motherfucker.
Are just, hey, where are you going? You know? But instead, it's Peter who comes up and is like, oh, you look like you're putting tents together. Someone got duped.
Well, because he's all like, now this is part of my strategy. First you put up the tent, then you build the bird box, then you get the women. It's kind of like Scarface, but in a summer camp.
First you get the tents. Yeah, and then Peter...
Peter's like...
he's got a real sick burn here where he goes, listen, Noah, I think someone needs their eyes checked because you're the only one who doesn't see what's happening with you and Tal.
Yeah, you're the only one that isn't seeing how bad you're striking out.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, whatever, man. Whatever. And then I'm like, I feel so sorry for Noah. And then we jump to post-rape Noah.
Yeah. In the fuck
which,
bus.
I mean, this scene obviously has a bit more credence once we understand later on what we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Where I still think the show is like this show has some serious issues with morality. Like some serious
say.
Like some like dubious fucking ways of dealing with things. But we jump back to him and he's lying on the ground, now a fucking broken man, beside the fire, and Glenn is sleeping off that post-rape glow.
Yeah,
I
mean,
know.
he's a guy. He had a sandwich, fell asleep.
And well, Noah wakes up and sees an iron kettle. How this kettle is in this bus is beyond me, because I'm not aware of like Glenn rushing it with a fucking kettle. Well, there's a giant iron kettle in the middle of this bus.
I was gonna make some goddamn coffee later, like just have myself a little wake up coffee, maybe make some bacon or something. You feel like breakfast? Hey, should for breakfast should I call you or nudge you? Huh, Noah? Huh? That's old standby. That's a Glenn special there.
So he lifts the kettle and he walks over, presumably to bludgeon him with an empty metal kettle, which is doing fuck all. I mean, out with waking him up. And that's just a stupid weapon. And he's about to hit him, and Glenn wakes up, and then Glenn tackles him down.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just when you think you've seen some horrific things, like Glenn basically says he's going to get him to scream again, and I think the insinuation is grabs his junk really hard and squeezes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he says, well, I guess somebody woke up ready to play again.
Yeah.
How about some more prison rape, goddammit? And so then we have our titles, because Slasher likes to start with a bang. Yeah. Literally. And then we cut over to Peter and Kira, who, when last we saw them, were investigating the RV that the real Glenn owned and is now stuffed into the freezer of that RV.
Yeah.
And which they have discovered. And Peter's like, well, check his wallet, see if there's anything in there, but don't leave any money either. He's not going to need it. But there's no ID in the wallet as it happens.
Yeah, there isn't. However, he does manage to find a picture ID of the original Glenn. And
Kira does. Kira's the one who's on point here.
Kira's always on point. Kira is the best character in this show. Right.
She's the one who's going to survive. Like, we called that a couple of episodes. I think you were the one who originally posited that, but I'm totally on board.
Yeah, she's got all the attributes of a really good final girl.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm convinced now. Plus, at the moment, the show isn't giving me anything that makes me think she's done anything dodgy in her past, whereas everyone else has.
Right. The next episode opens with her just like squatting over an infant taking a poop. You're like, oh my god, Kira's the worst. I hope she dies.
The next episode is going to be totally about Stromboli.
Mark Stroganoff, yeah.
They set up a full-on panic attack in this episode that will need to be explained in the next episode.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing here? Anyway, they find the identification. It proves that Glenn is the guy in the freezer, which means the guy that's out there is not Glenn, probably killed this guy, and now all of a sudden we're super concerned from Noah. You know, the guy that we accused with no evidence at all and locked him up with Glenn? These people are horrible people, Bo.
So, back on the fuck bus, Glenn is just kind of waxing poetic about all the people at the, the Borg back at the communal living center. He's just like, I'll tell you what, I want to kill all them at one time or another. Renee is just always spouting off about some bullshit and making me eat all this non-meat food. Why, all I want to do is kill them all in their sleep and make myself a steak, goddammit. But
there was one guy, Bo, that he cared for.
He's like, I liked you. I thought you were a pretty good kid, but unfortunately I got to kill you now on account of you knowing who I am. Also, all the rape.
And I was thinking to myself, I was thinking, did you think Noah was a good kid? Did you?
He just thought he was.
Did cute. You?
And like,
exactly. He refers to him later on as like a twink. Mm-hmm. This is fucking twink sashes up in this cabin, gets me all hot and bothered. This is why we're here. It's all his fault. It's literally
walking around in that cute little parka of yours while you were asking for it.
It's literally the defense that fucking horrible men say when they're like that. Well, women walk around in miniskirts. What do they expect?
Yeah.
It's fucking vile, but it's coming out of this jack-off's fucking mouth. And but like while he's doing this, at first you think he's whittling something, and then all of a sudden you realize he's actually making a noose.
Right, yeah. So we leave them for a moment to cut to Judith, who is just like kind of eyeballing the dead Megan, who was a character that showed up in the last episode. That was
cleaning the sick, the sick and foam from her mouth, in a kind of calm, quiet, also maniacally cold sort of way. And then a real boy shows up, Bo.
Yeah, Wren, definitely a real character on the show, shows up and is like, "That was a senseless death. All of this started when those outsiders came. Who's next, Judith? That's what I want to know." And Judith is like, "Hey, don't talk like that in front of the others, real boy Wren." And he's like, "All right, we'll keep it on the down low, but I'm really concerned." And this is just another shot across the bow of this show is treating its viewers like the stupidest people on earth.
Oh, God, yeah. I'll also say I'm now going to retract what I said in the previous episode. I think you're right, Judith killed her. Like, I was pushing the Renee did it because Renee is completely unhinged. I don't think there's a scene coming up real soon where I'm like, yeah, Renee didn't do this. So
yeah, absolutely. Danny asking us real quick, does this episode end in a rodeo? No, that is in fact Blood Shack. The film, not this episode. This does have a bonkers ending though, so bear with us. So we cut over to Dawn, who is being interrogated by Mark Stroganoff, the ex-cop, and Renee is there also. And Dawn just continues to insist on her innocence. She's like, "I did."
Well, they did a line where. Well, they did a line that I love here, and this is where I kind of thought, right, I was off about Rennie, because Rennie's like, the soup was full of these snowberries, and these snowberries are incredibly poisonous. You would know that. You were a camp counselor here. And she's like, that was 5 years ago. I don't remember the stuff I studied at college. Like, I barely remember what I did yesterday. And you're telling me about plants and stuff like that? I didn't do it. And then she looks at Mark Stroganoff in the face and she's like that. I didn't do it. And you get a flash in his eye because he seems to have relatively good judgment. Mm-hmm. And that flash in his eye where he's like, so she didn't do it.
Right. So, right. You can kind of see him mentally check her off the list as far as potential criminals. And then Peter and Kira return to the communal house, where they find Judith and Wren, and they're telling her, like, hey, we discovered that Glenn isn't actually Glenn. And this is a really nice one where Wren is piping up, where he's like, well, you want me to go look for him? Maybe I'll stay here. Do you want me to have the gun? Do Do you want me to take the gun? And nobody is acknowledging this.
No
except
one's
of course,
acknowledging him as well. I think that's the thing as well, is like they're obviously really, we've talked about this before, they're really trying to give him more lines now to try and maybe put the audience off the scent. But in doing it, the only way that works is if the characters react immediately, make eye contact, and address what he's saying. But everything they're saying is so clearly just a generic statement with no eye contact. Like everything that said directly to Judith from both characters, even when Wren's speaking. So there's like absolutely no doubt in your mind that this is just a lot of horse shit.
Right.
But the show is pushing, and it is not the first. They are going to push this the hardest they've ever pushed this in any episode, and it is just blatantly shit. But he's because they try and give Judith the gun. Like, here, you take the gun, you and Rennie need to stay here, look after the house and all the rest. And then she's like, oh, I don't want the gun. And Ren's like, oh no, you should totally take the gun. And I'm like, oh, what would like, and then like the like, this is how you would know Wren would be like a real character. They would give Wren the gun.
Right. Yes. But instead, finally Judith is like, okay, fine, I'll take the gun. And Peter's like, all right, set Phaser to kill.
Well, it hands the gun over, and then Wren brings his hands up to hold her hands with the gun. And I'm like, what we're fucking doing here?
Yes. It's very stupid. And you hear Wren say, well, I'll stay here with Judith, so, make sure nothing happens to her. And of course, nobody acknowledges that because Wren, after all, is an imaginary character that the show has not bothered to admit to yet.
Yeah, no other character other than Judith has uttered the words Wren in this entire runtime of this story.
Oh my God. Oh, this show is so dumb. All right, so back at the fuck bus, Glenn is strangling Noah with this noose they made. I used to leave this hanging up in my shack. And Noah ends up like kicking over this fire pit that Glenn has made in the bus, which sends a log kind of rolling and sets fire to a seat on the bus. And so now this
Glenn's
bus is turning into a hellscape.
But Glenn's gut reaction is grab the fire extinguisher and put the fire out on this fucking hollowed out bus.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing here?
Well,
like, is this where Glenn's going to live forever? Like, just let the bus burn. You know what I mean? I don't know what I don't know what he's fucking doing. Maybe let's get our hands on the kid that can identify us and is trying to make an escape right now.
The move is to knock Noah the fuck out and leave the bus and let him burn up in the bus.
That's right. Pin it on the other guy because he doesn't know that anyone else knows that he's not Glenn. So that's exactly. That is so fucking stupid. It's like at this point, I already hate Glenn because of what he's done, but now I hate him even more because of his stupidity. I mean, yeah, his rape and all the rest was fucking horrible, but now stupidity's just pushed that over the edge.
Well, and while
he needs to go, but he needs to fucking go.
And while he's stopped dropping and rolling on the bus, Noah pulls up his pants and just runs out of the bus to escape.
Puts a twig through the door handle as if that's going to stop Glenn, the mountain man.
And yeah, of course, Glenn just busts through it and I'm coming after you, goddamn daddy. And
it is as I thought. Well, but the thing is, right? She was so fucking stupid. Noah crawls away on the ground, the ground which is covered in snow. You see where I'm going with this?
I think so.
Like, so there's prints.
Yeah.
There's a scrape mark up to a very thin tree, which, by the way, the camera shows he's overhanging. So.
Yeah, he plays hide and seek like my 4-year-old nephew.
Puts his finger up in front of his face and says you can't see him.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Where's Xander?
Yeah, it's like honestly, the thing is though, he's like behind this tree hiding, and Glenn, 1, can't see the snow marks, and 2, doesn't really go anywhere to look for him.
Yeah, he just busts out of the bus and it's just like, where are you? How about you? Hey, Hey, no more rape. Pinky swear I won't rape and or kill you. So just tell me where you are.
So
All right. So now it's flashback time, Duncan.
it's flashback time.
We go back to 5 years before, where they have, per the first episode of the show, they have kidnapped.
We finally get to see because we saw the after effect, right? But we finally get to see what the setup was.
Right. And so after we see, we have seen in this episode Talvinder manipulate Noah, we now cut to like this survivor council that they've got set up in the woods at night, where they're telling Talvinder, like,
"We're going to vote her out the house."
Yeah, we're voting you off of the camp because of how much you've manipulated everybody in this group. And so they're like, we sentence you to a night alone in the woods, and if you paid attention at all to orientation or anything camp related, this should be fine. You could build a fire and all that kind of thing, but
they leave her surrounded with fire.
Yeah, yes, there are like I said, it's a survivor council where
like
Jeff
they literally there's all these tiki lights like already set up with fire and a fire pit that they leave her with, and I'm like, this is all I need to do.
Yeah,
bring it on, bitches.
Right, all I gotta do is stay out here for a night, and then we're totally cool. After all the shit I've pulled, all right, fine,
done.
Yeah, and she kind of pleads with Noah. She'll, "No, don't leave me out here." But even Noah's like, "Look, I'm done with you." He officially breaks with her, which of course consists of saying, "I break with thee, I break with thee, I break with thee," and then you throw dog poop on their shoes. That is the universal way to break up with someone. And so he does that, and then they all hold a vote where they're like, yeah, absolutely, we're going to leave her out in the middle of nowhere. And then they just kind of leave her. They walk.
Well, everyone votes apart from Picard.
Yes. Peter, because again, if there's going to be a guy to survive, it's going to be Peter, and then Kira will survive. And so then we cut to everybody searching for Noah in present day out in the woods. And Dawn is calling for him, and then Noah's just like, "Help!" and Dawn is like, "Wait a second, you guys. Did you hear something that sounds like somebody screaming? Is that an owl? Oh, I love owls." And
the thing is, like, Glenn hears him shit. He's like, "Oh, gotta poop."
Right? Yeah. He's just like, "I'm booking. I'm getting the hell out of here." And so he takes off running, and then we cut back to Judith and Wren at the house, chit-chatting about how, like, there's this storm blowing in and that kind of thing. And Renee is there.
Yeah.
Not talking or acknowledging Wren also. And she's obviously very jumpy. Like, after Robin, aka Gay Batman, was found in a chest as nothing but a pile of blood and pieces, she has not been doing well with any of that. And Wren just leaves the room because eventually there's going to be no way to explain why.
It gets more confusing though. Wren leaves the room, but will be back in this scene shortly, all bloodied and busted up.
Yes. So Renee is like, "I'm just not sure of anything anymore. I'm just so tired and afraid."
Yeah.
And Judith is kind of reassuring her and so forth until... And she's like, "Look, everything's going to be fine. You don't have to worry about anything. Nobody's going to bust through a door and grab you."
Wouldn't you know it, Bo? Someone busts through the door and grabs her.
Yeah, like Glenn comes in, "Hey, goddammit, I got you." And so he grabs her and just starts choking Renee out while Judith is like, Wren, get in here.
Yeah. And what I love about this is, like, at no point does Glenn go, "Better back off, Wren."
Right. Well, yes, naturally, because again, not a real boy.
Yeah.
So,
Wren, you were always my favorite in the camp. I know we didn't talk much or ever.
Wren was my favorite until Noah showed up. Noah, like they're almost just as favorite, but the fact that Noah's anus is real
Oh god.
versus Wren's, which is a decidedly ghostly rectum. That's what makes a difference to me personally. But I like them both. Don't get me wrong. But Noah being a flesh and blood person is really what's putting him over the top.
He has an unfair advantage, really, in that he's real.
Of existing. Yeah, that is an unfair advantage.
Yeah, well, so he chokes out. Well, as he's choking out, like Rennie, Judith makes a beeline upstairs. Wren gets knocked out.
Yeah. Right.
And essentially, but we don't see him get knocked out. We just see him on the ground, all fucked up. Judith goes upstairs and hides. Glenn goes to try and hunt her down. I do love this in that, like, she thinks she's kind of got away, and she turns around the corner and Glenn's staring right at her. And then Glenn just like he's been stuck for months in their camp, listening to them doing all their breathing and all their yoga, and it hasn't at all learned them how to calm their breath because she's panting like a dog. He heard her through the walls. He's had enough. He fucking hates every single one of them. He was going to just wait out the winter. That's all he had to do. But this twink comes walking in, shaking his ass, getting him all hot and bothered. He's had enough. You know what? And he's going to kill Judith. He's had enough. And he's just going to kill Judith. And then she's got a gun.
Yeah. Renee shows up with a gun and the gun and shoots him in the shoulder.
Yep.
And
no
and
way
so
you
down
live,
he
no
goes.
way.
And so then we apparently Dawn and that whole group have retrieved Noah and brought him back to the cabin, and Noah's now in the bathroom. And maybe the most like horrifying and hilarious moment of the episode for me is when Dawn is like, "Hey, look, you've been through a lot. How about you just have a seat?" And he's like, "I don't think I can do that right now."
But that's not even. No. That's not the horrific part. The horrific part is the dialogue that's written for him in this bit. Like, I always thought that, it would be like the movies and the police would kick down the door and save me. But the police never came. What the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, and the only person who came was Glenn. And speaking of, they've tied him up. In some,
you're going to hell, Boran. So you're going to hell.
That flight's been booked. In like an old like cabin for the kids, there's a bunch of bunks around and stuff, and they've just got him tied in the middle of the room like hostel.
Yep.
And Glenn hears somebody come in behind him, and there's a solid like 2 minutes of him being like, "Who's there? Hey,
what? Yeah,
how about you tell me who's there? I can't see nothing. I turn the other way."
There's a character walking around in a Parker jacket, which is the costume of the killer.
Yeah.
And then it's revealed to be Mark Stroganoff.
Right. And he's got some food. He's got a plate with a sandwich on it,
a Vex sandwich,
yeah.
And a bottle of water. And he's like, like Glenn chews him out, which is an interesting thing to see. He's like that. Listen, I'm facing the wrong way. You're going to sneak up behind me? That's not cool, man.
Well, it's kind of screwed up, man. I'm sitting here in the chair. I'm accused of murder, and I clearly just raped a young man. But other than that, how about you show me a little bit of dignity and respect?
Goddamn respect.
Yeah.
Well, he gives him a bite of the sandwich. He's like, what's that you got there? You got a sandwich? Lifts the sandwich up so kind of a bite. Instantly complains about it because guess what? There's no meat on that sandwich, bro.
Yeah.
It's a Rennie sandwich, which means there's no. I'm surprised there wasn't shit on it. She's fucking. She's gone. She's in Pluto, man. But anyway, it gives him a little drop of water, and then Mark starts doing some god honest questioning. Like he's like that, like just like tell me where the fuel is. And Glenn, once again, I hate Glenn, but I kind of love Glenn because he's very matter of fact. He's like, do you think for 1 second if I had the fuel for the kind of snowmobiles, I'd still be here. I'd be fucking off this hill. And Mark's like, well, why did you poison the soup? And he's like, poison the soup? Wait, did someone get poisoned? And Mark's like, do you have an accomplice? And he's like, no, I didn't have. Listen, I've literally murdered no one.
Except
Well,
Glenn.
apart from that Glenn guy, right, who I clearly did kill, but that was, it was circumstantial. I didn't plan to do it.
It was an accident. I didn't mean to kill him, but he started popping off, and he was so cute, I had to punch him in his face.
He's like, I only wanted to spend the winter here, and then I was going to be gone. And that, that was literally, I am not the killer. And then Mark's like, oh, look at this, Benny Ironside. These look pretty important. These pills. You probably need one about now, but maybe going to give me the spill your guts now. To which, I mean, Glenn doesn't waver at all, and he's left in that room needing his medication with a sandwich he doesn't like on the floor and the only bottle of water taken away from him. So
yeah,
he's having a great time.
So there's a moment where Judith is checking on Wren, who is nursing his bloody ghost hand and bloody ghost nose, which again, once you know, and not even once you know, it's not like the show has acknowledged this, but once you understand what is going on with this character, all of these scenes are totally ridiculous.
It's also like, because it's her imagination that's projecting this.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like obviously she's picturing him wounded, and then she's picturing him fixing, or it's awkward, it's strange, it doesn't make any sense. But Judas chatting once again, he's very much of a listen. None of this was happening until these kids showed up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he is very anti kids who probably killed Talvinder.
Which we're going to get to this at the end, because like I'm even more like, if I was confused in the last episode, I'm even more confused in this episode as to what exactly we are fucking doing here.
Right. What is the motive? Yeah, I'm kind of with you. So, all right, we have another scene where after Dawn and Noah were talking, Dawn apparently was like, Kira, you got to get in here and look at all this rape aftermath.
Well, she, like, Dawn still doesn't know yet he's been raped.
Well, I guess that's true,
we find out in this scene.
Yeah. Kira is like helping Noah get his clothes off, because he's like, I just want to go to bed. Everybody let me go to bed. And she's like, no. We got to, let me get you cleaned up. Let me get you washed off, and then we'll get you to bed. And as they're stripping him down, it's Kira who's like, oh, he has clearly been raped. And
his body is fucked up as well, like really badly bruised, really badly bruised. And like we see although this scene doesn't make sense, he's essentially being washed down, and there's blood like essentially running down his legs and into the drain, which we're assuming is coming from his shattered anus.
What one presume. Shattered Anus, by the way, my college band.
What a college band.
It was it was kind of a ska thrashcore kind of thing. And as Kira's like scrubbing him down, you hear a little bit of, I know what it's like to play the crying game. And
he's getting all this done, and like Dawn's obviously horrifically upset about this, because it's another level of something that gives me intense sympathy with Noah as a character, which we're going to try and remove in an upcoming scene clumsily. Like very, very clumsily. And I don't know, once again, why we're even spending any time doing this when we see what happens at the end of the episode. Like, this is like Slasher busting its load as quick as it can every time. It starts to build up something that might prove to be something slightly interesting, and then it has to undo it like 5 minutes afterwards. Or, it's like there's no confidence in any of the writing. Like at all. I mean, the writing isn't very good, so that's probably right, but there's no confidence in any one idea that they have to sustain it out longer, other than the Wren isn't real.
They're spending so much time dedicated to that they can't make anyone else a consistent character, because you're right, like Noah wavers in this from being wildly sympathetic to just a horrible person. And which begs the question of like, how do you, as a show, how do you want me to feel about this character?
How do you want me to feel about any character?
Yeah. Like the only people I like are Mark Stroganoff, just because we haven't had the episode yet where we find out what horrible thing he's done. And
next episode has to be next episode.
And Kira. Yeah.
Kira, because like our other might, like Peter cheated on his girlfriend, like
Yeah.
knowingly cheated on his girlfriend, right? Which is like, I mean, it's not like a capital offense where he deserves death, but at the same time, though, and like that happened early on, and we've been trying to in this show since then make him out to be a good guy, who I know from early on in the show cheated on his girlfriend.
All right, to that point, let's go to the next flashback
Yeah.
where it's once again all the counselors leaving Talvinder in the woods, and Peter is like, everyone, I've really been thinking, in the interest of diplomacy, how about we take Talvinder back to camp? I think she's really learned a lesson here.
Yeah.
And Noah's like, no, F that, because she has been manipulating everybody in this group. She's a terrible person. Peter really isn't in any position to judge this because he's a real Benedict Arnold.
Yeah, it's terrible. But at the same time, it did make me laugh because I love when he comes out with the line as well. When things start to escalate a little bit, he's like that. He repeats the line of, "You're the only one that can't see that you're going to strike out with Talvinder," and he knowingly said that after he'd fucked her.
Right. Yes. And yeah, right. And Noah throws that in his face as well.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you cannot in good conscience weigh in on anything we're doing here because you're kind of a cheating lowlife too.
Yeah.
And Talvinder then is like, oh, you want to leave me out here? Let's talk about Susan's girlfriend.
Well, this is the bit that I was like, what the actual fuck? Who is she?
Right. She is just the devil.
She is a fucking, she's a Romulan spy, bro. She works for Romulan Central Intelligence. Because, like, literally, this to me does, unless they really fill this in, this makes zero fucking sense.
100%. Because Talvinder has dirt on everybody. Like, there's this thing about Susan's ex-girlfriend from like high school or middle school or something that
she outed her at school, and then this girl killed herself. Which, once again, like, think about this. What did Talvinder do? She made a play at her.
Yeah.
So this is why I think she's such a fucking horrible, insidious character. Like, genuinely, just an evil character. Like, she played into that as a way to manipulate her.
Right.
So,
and she tells Dawn,
like, who slept with her stepdad.
Right, like some real Pornhub kind of mess. Where Dawn had sex with her stepfather to get revenge on her mother.
Yeah.
And then she says, look, I've got dirt on everybody.
Well, yeah,
here.
and Andy sold drugs to get into college.
Right, Andy, yeah, that's right. And she's like, I know dirt on all of you, and if you don't take me back to camp right now, I'm going to tell anybody who will listen all of these dirty secrets that you have. Yeah. And Noah's like, haha, but you don't have any dirt on me. And
then
like,
she goes raw on him.
Yeah, it's a real, like, dinner table and Hereditary moment where she's like, oh, you want to do this, Noah? You're right. I don't have any dirt on you because you are pathetic. You're a complete nothing. You're a nobody. You think
guy that comes in his own sock every night.
Right. You think I was ever going to sleep with you? Yeah. No, sir. That was never going to happen. And when she starts laying into him, Noah just comes over the ring. Like he's like, I'm going to get her. And
that's where it stops. Yeah. So it stops there. So we don't see what he actually does, but we have already been told in the past that he is the reason that things went south.
Right. And you could argue it's because of this, of him making this speech like, no. Yeah. Don't let her manipulate us yet again. She deserves this fate. But so, we cut back to the present where Mark Stroganoff is telling Peter and Renee that he's like, I really don't think that Glenn is the killer. Yeah. And Peter is like, I've got an idea. How about we tie up this son of a bitch and use him as bait for the real killer? We did that in episode 7 of season 3 of TNG. And
but it's also like it's a total one of those. Remember, Peter's the guy we're supposed to be getting behind, but basically what he's saying is this guy's completely expendable. Let's just use him. If he dies, he dies. You know what I mean? It's very much that sort of thing. And of course, what Rennie hears out of this is, I must torture him.
Right. Like she's like, yes, I think all of this sounds great. Excuse me for a second. I'm gonna go take a walk.
Anyone got a box cutter?
Yeah.
We got oh, you do? Oh, thanks very much, Judith. No, I'm just gonna go and cut some boxes. It's cool. Thanks.
I got it from Wren. Who? Never mind. Anyway, so Renee, goes to this.
It's got a label on the inside that says property of Wren.
Oh, that would be so good. I'm surprised they haven't done it on this show. We're gonna find a t-shirt or something pretty soon. So Renee goes to Glenn, and she approaches from behind again. So he's like, "Hey, who's behind me? What's going on? Everybody, what's happening here?" And Renee is like, pulls out this box cutter and is like, "So, you killed gay Batman, and I'm not gonna let that pass." And he's like, "I never killed no gay superhero whatsoever." And she punches him in the face.
Yeah.
And
he says, "Aren't you supposed to be a pacifist?"
Yeah. And then Glenn, who does not ever act with his own interest in mind.
Oh God, no! This is like, I mean, would it be inappropriate for me to say right now that you should just get really angry and stab me? Is that okay for me to ask? Oh, yeah. I shouldn't ask it that way. What I should do is throw accusations about your sham marriage and the fact that you're a lesbian and gay Batman was gay.
Yeah, where he's like, "Hey, did you both have a bouquet? Hey, I got all kinds of gay slurs to hurl at you. Hey, will that one get your goat? How about this one? I thought you enjoyed eating box and not pole. How about that? Does that do anything for you?" And then she, whips out the box cutter, and he's trying to work his hands free.
Yeah.
And also, meanwhile, outside, Peter and Kira are trying to get in because they're like, "Listen, Renee, we know you're in there with a box cutter. We plan on using him for bait, so don't kill him." But
she throws it into his leg, right? And he lets out a howl, right? And then she grabs the rope that is essentially he's trying to wriggle free from, pulls it tighter, so he's stuck in there. And as she's pulling it out, she slashes upwards and cuts Glenn's face. So he's got a gash on the side of his face. And now you get the feeling that she isn't backing down. And I think at this point, this is where Glenn realizes that she isn't backing down. So Glenn really quickly is like, "Listen, I didn't kill fucking anyone except that Glenn guy, right?" Mm-hmm. It was not me. And she's having absolutely fucking none of it. There is no way to de-escalate this.
Yeah, she gives him a thumb in the bullet hole in his shoulder.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because she rips off the tape that's covering the bullet hole and then just puts a finger right in there. And he lets it howl. And of course, we're outside now with, wait for it, we're outside with Dawn, with Peter, Kira, Wren,
and Mark Stroganoff.
Yeah, Wren's there, but Wren's there without Judith, so...
It's so...
Does she imagine him out there?
Wren, at this point, says, "Hey, you want me to go get a shovel?"
Oh, it's the greatest thing, because they're like, "Is there any way?" And no, Judith is there. Sorry, Judith is there. Because Judith goes, they're banging the door, right? And, there is, genuine scenes of horror happening on the other side, because Glenn is letting it house, to which Stroganoff has a full-on fucking panic attack, and he's like, "I can't do this. I gotta poop. And so he runs away back in the house. Sorry, Dawn isn't there. Dawn's in the house as well.
Yeah.
So he disappears. It was Dawn and Judith. I was getting muddled up with. Judith then remembers that there's a door to a cellar door at the back, but it's probably buried under snow. To which Wren then says, "Do you want me to go and get a shovel?"
It's hilarious. And that was one of
no one reacts to it. No one reacts to it.
Well, of course not. But that was one of those laugh out loud moments for me when I was watching the show and doing notes and stuff, when he's like, "Hey, you want me to get a shovel?" It was a real "Oh, great. You want me to go get donuts?"
Yeah.
How about we get some donuts? How about we celebrate with donuts?
So Peter runs away to get the shovel,
right?
Because he hasn't heard Wren offer to get the shovel.
Because ghosts can't carry shovels. and inside, Glenn is like, "I totally did it. Listen."
She goes fucking absolutely brutal on him.
Mm-hmm.
She digs the box cut into the back of his arm, and then she cuts out a strip of flesh like Jigsaw, like, and then she holds it up to the light in front of him.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I did it. It was me.
Yeah.
I fucking did it.
She gives him a whole, like, she carefully lays the piece of flesh that she has cut off of him onto his shoulder, and then says, I really wish I could believe you. I really do. If I could believe that you're truly sorry, all of this will stop. But
she tells him that she wants him to say sorry as well, but also tells him that if he does, she's not going to believe him. And she then very coldly, very calculatedly, and very calmly stretches out that knife a little bit more, puts it to the side of his neck, and then we get arterial spray as it splashes off her face.
Mm-hmm.
And the most like Glenn's dead now scene of this show. And yeah, like Glenn has left us.
Yeah,
not at the hands of the killer either, but at the hands of Renee, who's now a killer. Once again, another member of this commune of people that is now a killer. So,
right, one of the more inconsistent characters on the show is now gone.
Yeah.
Mark Stroganoff has run into the house where Dawn kind of comforts him, and they have a weird relationship.
Yeah, is there a potential romance there? Like, she clearly likes older men from what we've been told, but is there a...
Maybe. I mean, look, you can't put anything above the show or beneath.
Could they live happily ever after the end of this show?
I don't know that's gonna be. I think it might be a thing where they die together. It's sort of a like
like Aliens,
Frost and Vasquez from Aliens.
Like fucking with a hand grenade.
Yeah,
I love it.
Always hated you, Frost.
Yeah,
and then boom. Yeah, I think that's what's gonna happen.
I like, because I genuinely think the next episode we're getting Stroganoff's backstory, because he's hyperventilating.
Yes.
So there is some trauma. It's related clearly to the bullet holes. So we're going to get that as a backstory. However, every backstory we've had for a character in this show results in their death.
It's just going to be like an Al from Die Hard where he like shot a kid who pulled a ray gun on him or something, just something terrible. Yeah. So back after everybody reconvenes, after Renee has had her bloodletting, and then everybody reconvenes in the cabin, they've all decided in one of the smarter moves of the show that they're all just going to stay in the living room the entire time so they can all watch each other. Yeah. And Peter is like, "Look, I'll take the first watch. I'm not above it. Never ask someone to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. So I will keep first watch, and everyone else can get some
feels it miserably."
Yes. Meanwhile, Noah is like just staring off into space because of the horrifying trauma that he's just endured.
Yeah, because he wants to see Glenn's dead body. Yeah, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of with Noah on this one. I would do the same.
Yeah, so he apparently after Peter is like, well, maybe just 40 winks.
Peter lasts like 10 minutes after bigging himself up, falls asleep.
Yeah, and so Noah sneaks out and goes to the bunks where Glenn is dead in this chair, and he gives it a good, fuck you, which is understandable and all that kind of thing.
100%. Yeah, but then he this is fucking amazing. This is maybe my favorite.
Yeah.
He exits, and there's like a fire pit, and there's a character in a parka that he thinks might be Peter with his back to him, and there's also the dwarf from Don't Look Now sitting on a because it's clearly not a person. It's either a child or a dwarf sitting on a log,
or perhaps a corpse, Duncan. Let me just throw that out. Maybe a corpse.
Yeah. It's we're about to find out. It's Talvinder's corpse. Oh, right. So he's walking towards, and then flashback, Bo.
Yeah. All right. So Noah, after being dressed down by Talvinder, is coming off the truck and tries to rape her.
In front of everyone.
In front of everyone against the hood of this car. And it's Peter who's like, hey, mister. None of that on my watch. And he pulls Noah off.
How would you like a little taste of Jack Johnson? Smack.
Yeah. Look, I didn't make it through the academy not fighting. And the first rule of Academy Fight Club is tell everyone about Academy Fight Club. I would come at you in a whirlwind of teeth and fingernails. I'm not kidding.
He puts him down, and Talvinder's like, "Oh, you going to attempt to rape me? Right, all yous are fucked now. I'm going to run off into the woods."
Yeah.
So she runs off, which sets them. Well, at first they're all like, "What the fuck, Noah?" Which, by the way, I would also be doing it, and also I wouldn't be friends with Noah again now.
No. Like the fact that maybe the smartest thing anyone said on this show was when Susan told Andy, "Hey, when you see me on the street next time, keep walking. We are all forgetting about this, and I'm never going to acknowledge that this happened."
100%. But so essentially, once they've like all done the what the fuck Noah, they all go running after her.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we've seen how that ends up. We're going to get there. We're going to get to the point where we see how she ends up like Sam Neill in Event Horizon, as that scene's building up. But essentially, they're now running after. That would be somewhere down the road. I imagine that's Dawn's crime.
I would think so, but we'll get to her death in episode 7 or whatever. But
because there's no one left now, because we're not going to make Peter the guy that's responsible for all that. But yeah, so essentially that's like kind of, it leaves off at that part. And then we jump back, and of course he's walking towards, asking if it's okay just to sit by the fire to who he thinks is Peter.
But
and
it's
then
instead Judith. Yes.
Yeah. He then realizes that what is on the log is actually a skeleton, which he recognizes as Talvinder. And then the killer, Judith, like grabs a can of, this is so fucking stupid, by the way, grabs a can of gasoline, or petrol as we would call it, throws it on him, and then throws essentially fire on him, which sets him alight. He's surrounded by snow.
Right.
Stop, drop, and roll. That goes out pretty quick, by the way. I mean, I'm looking at it going, how can we be so fucking stupid in this show?
Well, I think maybe it's that his bottom is still sensitive, and so the rolling around would be especially painful, more so than the fire consuming him.
It's such a fucking stupid death. It's the worst one out of the lot, because he's surrounded by things that put out fire. You know what I mean? Like,
there's a wall of fire extinguishers behind him. There's snow all around him. There's a bunch of heavy blankets. Just anywhere you look, there's something to put out a fire. There's a sand pit nearby.
It's like, there's a shower that has been left on beside him. It's like, you know what I mean? There's everything that he can do to put himself out. But no, he falls face forward, with the fire like still covering him like completely at the back. And we then jump back to Peter waking up from what can only be described as a great night's sleep, turning around to see Rennie, who is fucking haunted and still covered in the blood of Glenn from the night before.
Yeah.
Not fucking blinking.
Right. She's doing that like 1,000-yard stare where she's like, I think we're safe now. We're safe now because I killed him, right? Because I killed the killer. And Peter's like, look, Renee, I don't know, but you look really checked out right now. I don't know that we can trust you with anything. Box cutter or gun. No. You are give us back mess.
Wren's box cutter, please.
Beverly, come up here and talk to Renee.
Well, but he's looking around everyone, and he notices that Noah's not in his bed, and then he goes upstairs and notices that Noah's not in his room. And as he works his way down, he realizes that Noah's gone, and of course gets a bit panicky. Rennie is in kind of disbelief about this, that anything could have possibly happened. And out Kira goes again with Peter, once again kind of signifying that they're likely to be our survivors, and they make their way up to The remnants of like some smoke,
they see the like black smoke rising up from us, near that those bunks,
yeah.
and go to investigate. And yes, that's where they discover the now dead and burned Noah.
Well, and the weirdest of all details, because this must have been done post-death, the killer has then positioned his body on top of Talvinder's corpse, maybe signifying that this is like it's like justice because he tried to rape her.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I don't know. Like again, this is a weird motive of like, why have Noah be one that's found with Talvinder's body?
Well, so I was trying to work this back sensibly in my head, right, which is difficult. But Susan had her eyes removed.
Mm-hmm.
Susan's the one that saw Talvinder sleeping with Peter.
Right.
So maybe that's why her eyes were removed, because she saw too much.
But then
I was trying to work out why Andy was bloodlet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then I mean that's a problem. Yeah, right.
Unless we get something about that in another flashback to like, because we know she smacked her in the face with, ultimately like a stone or whatever. But I kind of thought maybe that's what this signifies. But then once again, how would anyone fucking know that? Because Owen's not part of the group, right?
Yeah.
And the only people that know that he tried to rape Talvinder were those that were there.
Right.
So if Judas the killer, there's no way she would know.
Well, all right. So
unless Talvinder didn't die.
Well, let's keep in mind that Wren is very likely this Owen dude.
Yeah, but he's not right. So, but he's the one that they blame it on,
right? Who killed himself, if I recall right.
That's right. But he wasn't part of the group that did all this stuff there. So how would he know that?
I'm wondering if Talvinder didn't confide in him or something, and so he knows about like everybody's dirty secrets. And I'm sure we're gonna find some stupid flashback where like Owen has witnessed all of this somehow because he was like hiding from the shadows or some shit. But otherwise, it's even worse writing than we're acknowledging.
Yeah, but then he went back and then he did like an info dump to Judith.
Sure. Yeah.
And then Judith decided to go and live in a commune on the off chance that these kids showed up.
Right.
It's like my brain can't handle all the loops and jumps because like Judith's been there for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. Like it is either that or she like went to the commune because that's where her son was last happy or was last alive or something.
Maybe. It just seems like, and then she would know all these people. It's just like maybe she's got his diary or something. I don't know. All I know is it'll make a lick of sense. And this show took an arc that I actually thought was really interesting with Noah, actually giving us a sympathetic character for a change, and then destroyed that really, really quickly, and then made ultimately the victim in all of this one of the most reprehensible characters I've ever seen on screen.
I mean that's the thing is that the answer to our questions is going to be dumber than we possibly imagine. Is my
because I was trying to think about how many slasher movies I'm aware of with the person who's the victim at the beginning that is the catalyst is evil, and the only one I could come up with was Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. Sorry, like where the actual person that's killed that the person is seeking vengeance for is an absolute fucking evil monster.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? Like because like Jason dies accidentally, but Jason's an innocent, which causes his mother to do that. Michael Myers wasn't dead, so I say he doesn't count. And then every other one's like Cropsey. He's set on fire with kids playing a prank. I was thinking prom night. All these things that I could think of, I couldn't quite. You don't get that. It's just not a trope that you would do. for a show called Slasher that is clearly trying to be all these other things. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me. But she's a horrible character, and there's no way, shape, or form that they will redeem Talvinder to me in any way.
No, yeah. We're too far gone because we've only got 3 episodes left.
Yeah.
And I don't, unless they're like, oh no, Talvinder was originally someone who worked for children's charities, but then was taken over by an alien force.
How the fuck does she have all the information and all the... Unless she's been reading diaries, but then would you write, "Dear Diary, I fucked my stepfather today to get back at my mother." Lol.
This is all just going to be, like I said, it's going to be the dumbest possible explanation, and I can't wait. But we've got at least one episode between us and them admitting that Wren isn't real. Like, I don't think that's going to happen in 6.
No, it has to happen. It'll be the end of 7.
Yeah.
It's the cam reveal. It's the end of 7.
Right. Exactly. So, the tension mounts in Slasher. So that's where we are, folks, with Slasher Season 2. That there endeth. After they find the body, there ends the episode. And thus, the end of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, first of all, thanks for watching. If you're listening to the audio version of this, thanks for listening to that. We've got a couple of episodes left, 3 to be exact, between us and our next bonus episode or filler episode between Slasher seasons, in which we will be once more examining the work of Duran Duran.
Oh, we're getting to a banger as well.
Yeah. We're doing Rio is the next album.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll be doing our kind of live listen of Rio. I would point out here, if you are a member of the Legion Podcast Patreon, you will be able to get the full episode of that in about 6 weeks. If not, you will get an episode that is edited so that it's just us talking about the music, but you know how that goes.
We don't have any record label coming after us.
Yeah, you're right. We're not trying to get a channel taken down here, people. But on Patreon, we can do whatever we want. So in between now and obviously the audio version of this will be dropping next Saturday, and then the Saturday or Sunday after that will be us back in action to talk about episode 6 of Slasher. Thank you, Richard Glenn Schmidt, the notorious RGS, saying that he is kissing our eyelids, all of our eyelids.
Yeah, I'd recorded with Richard recently. We had a really fun conversation about movies that got us into horror. So
I've yet to have a conversation with RGS that is not a delight. So one of my favorite people on earth, and has one of the weirdest cats I've ever heard about. So, Duncan, in between now and the next time we chat live, where can people find you and what are you up to?
So you can check me out on Podcast Under the Stairs. Loads going on there at the moment. I am about at the halfway mark of recording summer series episodes, which will officially start dropping first week in August. So my plan is to wrap up the remaining 5 this month, and then be in a position to start giving you some quality content. I will say that thus far, the conversations have been amazing, and we've still to get to your 2 episodes, boys. So those will be happening in quick succession. But as a result of the kind of increasing work on the prep there, certain things have slid a little bit. So Chronicle, which I was kind of hoping to kick off this month, is now going to be pushed back to much later in the year. I just don't have time to do it. Me and you were supposed to have done an Opera Omnia, which hasn't happened. That we'll need to try and reschedule at some point to try and get us back in and around the kind of release frame for that for the end of this year, finishing off Fincher, which I'm sure we'll do because we're awesome. Down the Nasty's been pushed back as well, so it's going to be coming out next week. And on Podcast Under the Stairs, all the usual content that you could possibly want to check out, plus a brand new Russian Roulette franchise retro for this month of July, where we are doing Scream. All 4 entries in that Scream retro coming up for you, which I'm very much looking forward to. So that can all be checked out, tputscast.com.
Excellent. Over on the Legion podcasts, I would invite listeners to check out an exclusive new show on the Legion Podcasts network feed called What You Watchin' with Jamie and Bo, which is me and Jamie J. Sammons, discussing recent viewings and doing mini reviews. But mostly it's her telling stories about boxes of puppies that she's found and things like that. So it's really an excuse to just delve once more into the mind of Jamie Sammons to try to figure out what makes her tick. The answer, of course, methamphetamines. Then as far as stuff I do, we just wrapped up. Big thanks again to Derek Bourgeois for joining me on the One Missed Call series. We just wrapped that up with One Missed Call 3 Final. Next on Hero Go Show will be a solo show that I'm going to be doing, which will drop next weekend. Pick Six Movies continues its season 16 look at films that are like Jaws, with a season entitled It's Like Jaws. We have just wrapped up Anaconda, which is now out. And the next episode, which will drop on Friday, if you're watching this live, will be on the film Orca.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, which is an invitation to do Irish accents, and I'm pretty good at those, as you know. And yeah, and then I mean that's just me. Then obviously Duncan and Bo come correct. There's literally hundreds of hours of you and I talking about all manner of things. Mm-hmm. And then there's a bunch of other stuff on Legion Podcasts. Hail Ming Power Hour is going to be returning in grand fashion. You're going to be getting more Cinema Psyops and Controllers Up, Cards Down, which is both a video and audio gaming podcast. Hey, Sarah, join us for the end. Welcome. And
hi, Sarah.
Then a bunch of stuff. Just go to legionpodcasts.com and you can find all the current shows available there. Kiss the Goat is back. Kiss the Goat is a fantastic show. Really happy to have that back. So any number of things. And we certainly appreciate both your listenership, and if you are one of the kind people who are part of our Patreon, which is just patreon.com/Legion Podcasts. There you will be getting some more exclusive podcasts, as well as a video series called The Ouija Experiment, in which myself and other knuckleheads examine movies that happen to have the word Ouija in the title, and that is generally a recipe for them being kind of terrible. So please join us for all of that and more. Between Legion Podcasts and the podcast Under the Stairs, we really can fill up your days with nothing but excellent entertainment. So there is nothing left for me to say this time around except to say to my good friend Duncan, say goodnight, Duncan.
My good friend Duncan, say goodnight, Duncan.
Ah, that's too long. Bye.